What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 39 of the Texas to Tennessee podcast. On this episode, we get to talk to J.D. Graham. He's got one hell of a story. But before we get going, please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, no matter where you're listening to this podcast. It helps me out, it helps the podcast out, it helps the artists that take the time to come on. It helps everyone involved. Also, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, RWDY brand Streetwear. The link to their stuff will be down in the bio, so check them out, please. And there'll be a Linktree thing down in the bio too, with all of our socials, any tip links if you like what we're doing. Not afraid to take those. So appreciate that. Appreciate the time, and see you. JD, man, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. We kind of connected through Facebook. I'll be honest. I found your music because BJ Barham said, "Go check this guy out," and I'm like, "Okay." If BJ gives you the recommendation, then I'm gonna at least go give it a listen. And
awesome.
And then I fell down that rabbit hole and became a fan. So.
Oh, well, thanks, man. And yeah, if BJ's watching, thanks, man. I met him in Key West at Mile Zero Fest last year. Looking forward to seeing those guys again.
Yeah, he shared your last album you just posted, or that you released. He shared it.
The Sergeant of Sorrow.
Gave a shout out to it. So.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So you said, what part of the world are you in currently? I know you're going to be playing some shows, but.
Yeah, I'm out on the road. I've been out for about a little over a week, but I'm down in Surf City, North Carolina today.
Got you.
We were up in, I got Meredith Crawford with me on this run, and we've been up all through Illinois and a couple shows in the Carolinas. We'll be playing tomorrow in Surf City and Friday up and Dunn, and then I fly back to Tulsa to play the Born and Raised Festival and playing with Jamie Lynn Wilson on the Mile Zero stage out there Saturday at noon. And then I fly back to Charlotte and go to Statesville on Sunday and play the old jail listening room. And then I drive up to Wisconsin and I play boxcars. And then I go to Illinois the next day and I'm playing the Backroom Lounge with Courtney Patton. Then I go home for 3 days, drive all the way back to Oklahoma for one show, come back to Phoenix and get on a plane and go over to the Netherlands for 2 weeks and play with my buddy Zach Aaron over there. A busy man now.
So what you're saying is you have nothing going on. I completely.
Well, today I don't. But
no. No. Man, you're naming names that we're fans of for sure.
Cool,
a lot of those folks, Jamie Lynn and Courtney. Talbo there is buddies with somebody that plays with Jamie Lynn off and on. So. It's good folks for sure.
They are. I mean, not only like just world class songwriters and musicians, but like world class human beings. And like I have a standard. Like the folks I hang out with, they got to do more than just be able to write a good song. They got to be cool people too, you know.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yep.
But so I guess we'll just kind of start back. What part of the world are you originally from?
Born in Weatherford, Oklahoma. Raised in Hydro, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Hydro, about 500-person town. Moved to Yukon, Oklahoma when I was in 6th grade. And I stayed there until, y'all know Yukon is the home of Ragweed and Garth Brooks. I always mention Ragweed first, right?
Yes, sir.
I went to school with all those guys. Cody and Plato and Grady Cross and I were in multiple classes. And then I moved in, I stayed out in Oklahoma till I was 07, I moved to Arizona. So I live in Arizona now since 07. And I live out in Mesa, Arizona now. I was in prison for a few years, so I had addresses all over the state of Arizona.
Yep. So did you, is Grady's considered your kind of hometown venue? Is that, I don't know, where you play most frequently or?
No, I didn't. When I was back in Oklahoma, man, I didn't even start writing songs until, I was like 32 years old. I was just a death metal guitar player. Bass and guitar I was playing. I played in a band called Skull Plate out in Oklahoma City, and we played with like Cannibal Corpse and Vader and Cataclysm. And I was like in the full-blown death metal genre. That's all I wanted to do was play the fastest, most intense stuff out there. And then when I hit 30, I was starting to, I'm still in the midst of my addiction, but I started having that kind of come of age moment to where I wanted to explore something else. So I started playing an acoustic guitar, and I started seeing if I could sing. I'd sang, a couple songs in church and karaoke, but it was really difficult for me to learn how to play and sing at the same time. So I would go to open mics out in Phoenix, like 2 of them a night, 7 nights a week. I did that for about a year and a half to try to figure out how to play, sing, and write songs. And then, hell, when I went to prison, I'd only had I maybe had like 15 songs written, and I wrote about around 160, in my incarceration. So late bloomer in this genre. So yes, I played Grady's a couple times with my old band. I had a band before J.D. Graham called Sour Diesel Trainwreck, and we were just kind of a southern rock with Oklahoma roots band. But we got to play with a lot of cool people. With back before Turnpike blew up, we did some support stuff for them out in Arizona, and of course, Cody Canada in the Departed capacity, and kind of in that world. But again, I was still an addict, so I was at the bottom of my game.
Understandable. Yep.
I have to admit that to do some homework, and because I'm a podcast listener anyway, I pulled up a couple other podcasts and kind of listened to get to know you a little bit. So I'm trying not to ask the same questions, but also
you can ask whatever you want, man.
Your story is your story too. You know what I mean? And from just listening through a podcast, I didn't have a face with it or anything, but I kind of got the feeling that you don't mind telling your story because it might help somebody else. That was the vibe I got just from listening. I guess kind of, even though I heard what you said on there, but can you talk about when you were locked up and everything, you were doing lessons and stuff like that while you were in locked up, right?
Let me give you just a brief overview of my life up until prison. So, out in Oklahoma, man, I was getting in trouble. I was getting kicked out of school in second, third, and fourth grade, and I got an addiction. I think a neurologist prescribed me Valium at a young age. And by the time I was 16, I was stealing all my friends' parents' medicine, anything out of their medicine cabinet that said may cause drowsiness. By the time I was in my 20s, I was just full blown, daily, hourly user of all kinds of stuff, and selling and buying, all kinds of things, and had a $500 to $700 a day habit to all kinds of things. I'm trying to keep the keywords down to a minimum. So
I had to turn the TikTok off anyway. It wasn't working right. So you're clear to say whatever the hell you want to say at this point. So
selling a lot of cocaine and doing a lot of meth and in Oklahoma, completely out of control. A lot of benzos, a lot of opiates. Moved out. And this thing went on. I mean, there's so many stories in between. If you listen to my songs, you can kind of fill in the blanks. I'm kind of just giving you the brief overview. Moved out to Arizona in 2007. I just recently gotten to be married, and the border was right there. And it was a disaster because everything was at my fingertips, and I could just go to another land where I could get whatever I wanted, without having to really work for it. So just continued a path of absolute self-destruction. Tried to have a band while all this was going on. And somehow I was able to maintain some sense of normalcy, whether it was working an air conditioning job or going out on the road with my band. I mean, as normal as you can be with a habit like that, right?
Understood.
2015, I got in a car accident. I was not sober. Took the life of another guy. And that would begin the change of the rest of my life. I fought my case. I didn't fight it. I tried to plead guilty to it, but my attorney said you can't plead guilty to it yet. So this went on for about a year, and I finally signed a plea. I pled guilty to negligent homicide. They sentenced me to 6 years in prison. I still never was sober after the accident. It took me until the first day I went to prison is when I decided to get sober. Not because there's not drugs in there, because there are a lot of drugs in prison, and they're you got to walk less than 50 yards to get them. So I started playing. I was in a medium security yard out in Eloy, Arizona, called Red Rocks, where I started playing in the church band there. I started writing songs and getting comfortable with my sobriety. Believe it or not, when the couple of bouts of sobriety I had before we went to prison, I couldn't play and sing because everything you've ever heard me do, like before the day I walked into prison, like recorded or live, I was on drugs my whole life. I'd never played sober my entire life. And so it was such a strange feeling, you know, having 30 days of sobriety and trying to play a guitar and trying to sing. It felt so foreign to me. So I had to like work on rebuilding the relationship with my instrument, being both my voice and my guitar playing. So played in the church band there, and then started a music program. I helped start a music program at Red Rocks with a guy named Javier Lavender, and I think he gets out here in the next year, where we were teaching guys how to play guitar and keyboard. Now imagine this chaos. Like, you guys play guitar or not? You know, play instruments.
Yeah.
A little
Okay, so
bit, yeah.
A little enough to call it chaos. Yes.
well, imagine a one-on-one guitar lesson is chaotic enough. Like, we had 10 guys on guitar, 4 guys on keyboards, and 2 guys on bass at one time. They were all wearing orange, right? They're never used to taking directions. So did that, wrote some songs there, actually recorded an album in Visitation and released that Razor Wire Sunrise from prison when I had like less than 6 months of sobriety. Got reclassified to minimum, went up to Apache unit in northern Arizona, and started a really cool music program up there where we were teaching, 5-7 days a week, taught over 500 guys, along with a team of other guys that I was incarcerated with that were musicians as well. But I was able to navigate the bureaucracy and propose things to administration and security staff that the end goal was kind of just comprehensive, like behavioral change through music. Because a lot of those guys in there, what I found, prison doesn't provide many outlets for positive self-expression. And I think from birth, we're all trying to find a way to express ourselves, right? I'm like, I wonder, like, if we got all this equipment in here and started teaching guys how to play the guitar, maybe their voice has always been right here and nobody's put it in front of them. And it was the most powerful thing I've ever been part of. I've watched the most broken people on the planet heal through 6 strings on a guitar and playing a few chords and writing songs and stuff. So it was really cool. I've been a musician my whole life, but until I went to prison and had some sobriety and was teaching other people, I never learned so much in my life. I learned more in the 6 years I was in prison than I learned my whole life about music. And I learned more in that 6 years through the sober lens than I have my entire life. It was just a beautiful thing. I can't take all the credit for it. I mean, I was just the guy that knew how to talk intelligently to administration and the guy that was studying policy and the guy that was talking to administration and security staff to before I submitted proposals to highlight any things that any issues they had so that I could come up with a solution for those before I ever submitted it to the real people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it took a lot of homework, and a lot of people told me there's no way it would ever happen. But it happened. The program is still going strong. I still try to donate guitars and things when they need it to the last yard that I was on. And the guys get out, and we try to make sure they get a guitar pretty quick if they call me. My phone number is online, so anybody that gets out of prison and wants to get a hold of me, I mean, you can go to thejdgraham.com. Anybody in the world can, and they can call me. And people call me all the time. You mentioned watching a podcast the other day. I did the Mark Howley show. I bet you 30 people have called me in the past 3 months from watching that Mark Howley podcast and told me, hey, man, you said this, and I've been praying like to hear something, and like you answered the prayer, or guys that are just struggling, or guys that just want to call and talk about some of the issues that I touched on in there. So not to get too long-winded with it, but my goal, man, is to help other people heal the way that I healed through my music and my faith. I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus. I wear that on my forehead, and I don't look down on anybody that does not believe what I want to believe. That is not my place to judge another human being about whether his belief system is correct or not. I got a relationship with God, and if you got a relationship with something else, that's between you and God, period. I don't point fingers. I don't try to push anything on anybody. I just tell people what worked for me. I can't tell other folks what will work for them. I can kind of give them the outline of the things that worked for me to get my life changed.
After you got out,
That makes sense.
have you ran into or met any folks that you were working with while?
A lot.
Really?
Oh yeah, to one of my buddies, Jared Edwards, the guy that was writing songs. I helped him write his first song, and he had a few more years whenever I got out. He got out. We got him a guitar. He's still on parole. He convinced his parole officer to give him a travel permit. I took him on tour with me down through Texas and just let him see see what it was like to be out there on the road and be sober. Because you can say all you want, but unless you like, I think the thing that speaks volumes to folks. You can talk all you want, but if you're not walking the walk, then it doesn't matter. And I think the most inspirational thing you can do to someone, or for someone, and with someone, is to take them in a car for you, drive 3,000 or 4,000 miles, and continue to walk the same thing that you're talking, and show them that it is okay to not be the party guy. That you can. There's many activities out there that don't involve drugs and alcohol that you can do, and still maintain your sanity and have some fun. So I love doing that, and there's multiple people out of that program that get out of prison that I talk to, a lot of them, and there's still a bunch in there, and I still communicate with the guys that are still in there. Because we trained guys before I left to take the program over, and that it just continues to go. It's pretty cool, man. It's prison is weird to say. Prison is the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life.
I understand. I'm sure it puts a lot of things in perspective.
It does.
Or it can.
It took a long time. Looking back, I know that God gave me many opportunities to get sober and do the right thing my whole life, and I just wasn't listening. But He showed me the timeline of all the things that He did do for me. I'm like, wow, dummy.
No, that's
you could have found this peace a lot earlier. But you know what? I don't regret any of the lifestyle that I used to live because I think it requires that to be able to communicate with folks that are struggling. Like you have to share some common ground. And as you guys hear my songwriting, I mean, the majority of my songs are introspective songs that are just filled with my own personal truths. And if you've been there in those scenarios that I write about in my songs, like there's no way to fake that, so establishing that human connection through music is my goal. And I tell people all the time, my whole goal is to connect with folks through music.
I was just going to say one more thing on that, and Talbo, you can take the next. If I can only imagine the feeling. I'm sure there's a lot of chaos, like you said. All these different people learning music at the same time, and sounds like a guitar store with a bunch of different stuff going on. But still, when the moment clicks and you can tell like they're enjoying this, or they're starting to get it. I'm sure that's a crazy good feeling.
Well, it was great because like these guys, some of these guys had crazy work ethic. I convinced the administration to let me send in 6 little $100 Jasmine guitars, and we use them. We call them checkout guitars. So in prison, they have like a rec shack. You can check out like softballs and workout equipment. Well, I said, well, let's have a checkout program in the band room. Guys can come check out an acoustic guitar, and we had like a pretty comprehensive accountability chain. No guitar strings were ever missing. There were guys that would sit out there for 8 and 9 hours a day playing guitar all day long. I mean, the guys in my classes had homework, and I grilled them on their homework, and it was crazy to see them focus. I think when we focus on anything other than the problem, then anything that we focus on becomes part of the solution. Whether that's lifting weights or playing guitar or playing piano or writing poetry or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So
Idle hands.
Yes. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. True story.
Yeah.
So it was very cool to see that. And they let us have concerts on the yard once every other month. And in the wintertime, when it was too cold outside, we set up like these little listening rooms inside a classroom, and 40 or 50 guys at a time would come in there, and 5 or 6 guys would play that day. The songwriters and some of the guys that would just play covers and stuff. It was. I used to look up and be like, "There's no way this is going on in prison." Like the stuff that was going on, there's just no way. And people around me in that program and on that yard, they were still in disbelief because they were like, "There's no way they're going to let you get guitars in here and then we can check them out on the rec field and go out there and play in front of the gym or go sit on a bench and write songs all day." So when the Lord's put His mind to something, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. If God wants something to happen, it's going to happen. And I was witness to that on a daily basis.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. JD, had you ever taught music before?
No.
Okay.
I only had two guitar lessons in my whole life. I took one from a guy named Brian Ballou out in Oklahoma City, and I took 2 lessons from a classical guy. I learned by ear, by rewinding Megadeth and the Testament, the New Order tape, rewinding these things and just trying to figure out how to play these things. couldn't, when I was 29 years old, if you told me to play like just a cowboy G chord, I'd look at you like you called me a name. I didn't know what it meant. You know what I mean? I was a ear
Yeah.
player.
So I guess my follow up question is, do you do you think that you learned to be better at the practice of playing guitar by teaching? Because I know it's not not everybody that is a great player has the ability to teach someone how to be a decent guitar player.
Being a guitar teacher or just a music teacher in general taught me more about music and playing guitar. I made more progress in 5 years than I made in the last 25. Because when you're teaching people, there's an expectation that you know what you're talking about. So if you don't study
Right.
and know what you're talking about, you look like an idiot. Now, I send in all types of literature and instructional DVDs and music theory books, and I studied these things relentlessly at night so that I knew I could play all this stuff, but I didn't know why I was playing it. Now I have a deep understanding whenever I hear something. Like I can hear the chords. Somebody plays a major or minor seventh chord, I can hear the voice of it and tell what it is. And those are things that I used to have to figure out. Now I put in the work and I know it. And it was cool too because I learned fluent Spanish while I was locked up as well, and was teaching the Spanish population as well in there that didn't speak any English how to play guitar. But bigger than anything, like being a guitar teacher, any type of teacher in that environment, it was also teaching me patience and perseverance and work ethic and accountability. So it was a very reciprocal action. I was trying by me teaching the class and holding these guys accountable, we didn't even know it, and we were learning all these real world behaviors and skill sets that come naturally from showing up every day and putting in hard work and having a work ethic. I mean, all these the accountability and the work ethic and the dedication. Those things are byproducts of someone that has found their voice and wants to learn how to use it.
Right. I guess the next question that I had for you is I spent the last couple of days listening to your music and really enjoyed it. Not just because you're sitting in front of me, but I do gravitate towards the singer songwriter type. But you jam a ton of information into each song, and I love that approach. So not super heavy hook influenced, which is fine. I like a good hook now and then too. But I guess my question is, in terms of your process, how do you go about coming up with what you're going to create? And then, is it lyric driven initially, or is it, music first, or how do you go about that? And where do you put yourself to make that happen?
Wherever I'm at, most of my songs, every song I've written except for three, I have a guitar in my hand, and there's been very few times when I sat down and say I'm going to write a song about X, Y, or Z. I'll just start playing some chords and I'll just kind of freestyle the first line and just find a very cool first line, opening line of the song, and I'll just drive that song organically wherever it needs to go. I don't like. If you told me, like, I'm not a big guy that does the songwriter groups where people give prompts and stuff. That's not
Right.
my process, right? I like to be able to drive a song wherever I want to. I've written a couple songs and I sat down and said, "Hey, I'm going to write a song about X, Y, or Z," but that's not my process, and I don't hardly ever write all my lyrics first. It usually comes together because I feel like for me, and everybody has a different process, but when I'm playing a guitar and I'm coming up with words in my head on the fly, myself gets out of the way, right? It's almost like a freestyle rapper, right? So I'll play shows. I did it this weekend a couple times. Like, you guys want to know my songwriting process? And I just start playing a chord progression and I start looking around the room and hoping that I can find the rhyme in time whenever the end of that measure goes by. So it's very cool, like, to sit around there and do that and come up with a couple of lines and then just like figure out then from those couple lines where I want to drive the song. A lot of my songs I write are just about the truth that have happened to me, so I don't mean to jam so much information in it, but there's such a rich story there that it would take me a million songs to write my entire story in it. So I have to put all this information, and it's not by design. It's just a very organic thing. It just happens. I don't sit around and say, "Man, I want to put this super thick plot in here. It just happens. And
Right.
When the song's done, I just know that it's done. I'm not a big guy that goes back and rewrites and does a whole bunch of edits. Not to say that I haven't done some editing to songs, but I don't go
Sure.
back and rewrite them. I write the stuff that's important to me and hope for the best. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, shout out to you because incredibly authentic, and it's hard not to feel the emotions when even just the first couple songs that came on. I was like, how come I don't know more about JD? It's must be my fault. And, that being said, Soul and I both listen to quite a bit of music, but for whatever reason, I just hadn't heard it yet. But I'm sure glad that I had now.
Well, thank you, and I think that's truly independent guys that have no management, no label support, no booking. I do everything 100%. Like, you're looking at the guy that does everything that you see out there. When I released my Pound of Rust album, I used a publicist and Brandy Reed out of Tennessee, and she helped me write my bio that's on my website. Just kind of there's a lot of information unpacked there. And of course, when you have a publicist, they can get you into some of the reviewers that maybe will review your album. Now, this Sergeant of Sorrow album, I did not use a publicist for a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm broke, right? Number two is I started asking myself, what are you doing? Like, I know, like, if you're going to be in this business, you got to kind of play the game. But, like, at the end of the day, who are these albums really for, And so I didn't do it. I mean, the jury's still out on whether that was a mistake or not. I mean, publicity is important, but depending on what your goals are, my goal is human connection. I don't care if I get on the radio and get accolades from the mainstream public. I'm not. That's not my goal. So my goal is human connection, helping people heal through the things that I write, and also self-expression. This is very cathartic and very healing for me, and. I have a song on my new album called The Weight I Carry, where I almost relapsed back in October. So just because I have 7 years, I mean, I'm barely made it to 7 years of sobriety because life gets difficult. Wife's been battling cancer for the last year and a half, and, the world kind of comes crushing down on you. And you couple that with the pressures of being an independent musician and nobody answering your emails and phone calls, texts. You know what I mean? And I'm not complaining. I'm certainly
Yeah.
not playing the victim here. I'm just highlighting a very, very honest reality for us folks that are going at it alone. And I found the only thing I can do is go out here and beat up the highway and get in these 60 to 100 seat venues and pour my heart out. And I know if I can get in a room full of people that are quiet, I know that I can reach those people. That's why I don't play loud rooms anymore. So
Right.
it would be very cool. It's a dream of mine to get on some tour support with anybody out there that's playing quiet rooms, big theater, 300-400 seat theater gigs, because it's just difficult to do by yourself. It really is. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, and if I'm being honest, at least two times a month, I'm done with this stuff. With the making a living playing music part of it. I'm never going to
Yeah.
be done with music, but you know what I mean.
I do.
The
I do.
music business part. I want to separate those, and sometimes you can't.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely understand it. That's one of the things that me personally, anyway, my point of trying to do this podcast was to highlight the lowlights of the independent thing. Everybody knows the glamour side of it, but a lot of folks that listen to music don't know what it takes to get the music there, to get to the show, and to get the stuff recorded, and it's just not on their radar. So I hope by people hearing your story and everybody else's stories, they're all different, but I hope when they hear them, they understand why it means so much to share to interact and to share and to give it a chance. Don't just stick with the radio. It's okay to listen to top 40 radio, but
Of course.
listen, give some other stuff a chance too. Because
Like, it is so the music world is so difficult. It would be easier to go dig sewer ditches for 8 hours a day. Like, I don't think the people that come out to shows, that they don't understand the day to day thing for the independent guy. Now, if you've got management and booking, and you don't have to worry about that part of it, that's a giant component of it, just the booking part of it. Because you have these bigger booking agencies that they're going to use their own up and comers on support for for shows, and it's hard to like get included in that conversation. So the only way I can operate in that is just to continue to burn down the highway. I've traveled 105,000 miles in a car this year, driving around sharing my songs with people. So I'm taking the whole shotgun approach. Somebody's like, "Oh, just concentrate on a couple of states." Well, that's just not my MO. I want to play in quiet rooms, and they are spread all over the United States. But man, it is so worth it. I've done the loud bar wing night at Chili's gigs type thing where nobody's there listening to music, and I cannot in good faith. I feel like I would relapse and I'd be a disaster if I had to go back and do that. Nothing wrong with the people that have set out to do those kind of local, just sitting in the corner on a bar stool and nobody's paying attention, because some people just do that because they look at it as better than going and getting a 9 to 5. You're your own boss, But I'm so deeply connected to my songs that it really depresses me when I go to loud places. So I don't go to the big, or I don't go to the super loud honky tonks where people are just talking and music is not the focus.
Right.
How have you accumulated those venues like that? Because I mean, personally, here in West Tennessee, I can't tell you where one is. You know, as far as where they're not, where it's not a rowdy honky tonk or whatever, where it's a they're going to hear a singer songwriter. I'm guessing is what the places you're talking about. Have you just word of mouth, or how did you run across those places that you're going to?
Well, there's a lot of listening rooms in America, and you have to dig at things, and then
Okay.
so check this. So I tell this to folks when I'm talking in like recovery groups, like former drug addicts or just even current drug addicts are the world's best problem solvers. We're the only people that can wake up dope sick at 6 o'clock in the morning with zero money, and we're going to be high by 8 a.m. So when we get sober, we use we've kind of perfected this problem solving deal in our addiction. When we start applying that in other areas, it's just another problem, and it's just one by one is how you figure them out. But people that know me in the industry know that I'm not going to play loud rooms. They know that. I mean, every once in a while I'll do it if there's something cool that happens. But I play listening rooms, and they're scattered all over the place. And so word of mouth, me constantly sending emails and showing up and supporting the venues that I want to play at, even when I haven't played at them. I think networking is such a huge part of this game, and being authentic when you network, not showing up because you have an agenda other than support. Maybe you want to play a place, but if you want to go play a place, the first thing you have to do is like genuinely like have support for that place. You can't just go in there and be a taker and leave. You go in there and you contribute, one of your nights to watching somebody that maybe you've never heard, and show people that you are a music fan. I'm a music fan first and foremost. Before I ever started playing music, I was a
Right.
fan. So I love going and watching music. I had a weekend off about 8 or 9 months ago. I drove from Phoenix, Arizona, 1,000 miles to the O4 Center down in Austin to watch Anna Tivell because I wanted to see her that bad. And my buddy Ryan Colwell was playing with her as well. And then I turned around and drove back. So people think I'm crazy for the amount of driving I do, but what else are you gonna do, man? If you want to go do this thing, like there ain't nobody coming to pick me up, and there's like I got to go out there and build what I'm trying to build, and I'm just I want to connect with people, and I want to tell stories. And it's cool that I get to play some cool festivals. I'm driving back to Oklahoma City or flying back to go play a Born and Raised festival out there in Oklahoma, and some of my favorite all-time artists are on the same bill that
Yeah,
day.
it's a great bill.
So I'm just like extremely, extremely grateful for that, and I don't take any of that stuff for granted, because I'm not a band guy. I've had a band, and I like band stuff, but right now I'm in storyteller mode, and that's what I want to do. And it's cool to have folks accept that and help me to achieve the goals that I've set forth for myself.
I just double checked to follow up on the story I told you originally. BJ shared Percocets and pawn shops
Oh, okay.
was the song that he shared.
On
That's the one that
Instagram or did you?
I saw it on Facebook, but I'm sure
Okay.
it's probably connected together if I had to guess. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, probably so.
yeah. So yeah, he definitely gave you a shout out. It's probably a month or so ago.
Well, I mean, I had several American Aquarium albums whenever I was in prison. Before we had tablets. Last 2 years we had tablets. Before that, people would send CDs in. We had CD players. And I remember whenever I heard 6 Years Come September, that song was
That's a
almost my story. I'm just because the character in that song was kind of out in the free world, like trying to heal through the tragedy he caused. I was sentenced to 6 years, and I was sitting in prison when I heard that song about a guy that killed somebody in a car wreck. You know, and I'm like, but I've always loved BJ's writing. I mean, he's very honest. I like honest songwriters. It's as simple as that. I think my buddy Ryan Colwell put it very simply when we first met. Y'all know Ryan?
I don't.
I know of him, but
Yeah, Ryan
I
Colwell,
don't know him.
just super fantastic songwriter. But he said that he liked writers that don't put a bow where a bow doesn't belong. Sometimes the truth is that the stories don't end the way that we want them to. They end the way that they end. And um, I write a lot of those stories. I could fabricate an ending to it. I could make everything shiny at the end of it, but that's not the truth. The truth is that folks need to know that in the world that man, some of the stuff goes south so fast. You know, whether it's people from, I'm on my new album. I have that song on the end of Her Rope where this lady's getting abused and beat on. At the end of it, you think that she would just leave the guy, but she hangs herself in it, because that's the hard truth about life is that people suffer, and they all suffer in different ways, and there's different outcomes to everyone's personal suffering. And because I've been in a lot of suffering my whole life, well, I've got a lot of content to write about it in an unusual perspective from someone that's made it through that and then come out on the other side, and maintain some sobriety,
I'm sure if you weren't authentic, what you're doing wouldn't be connecting with everyone so much. I know you have a goal of being authentic and being just telling your story, but just I'm just guessing that if you weren't, it wouldn't be people wouldn't be connecting to it the same way as they do.
People can see through that stuff. I mean,
Right.
whenever you watch movies where the writers are not really, if you watch a movie and the writer's connected to the story,
Right.
it hits a little bit differently. And what makes it better is, man, I show up early and I go walk around. I talk to everybody in the room, and then I stay late and I talk to folks because that's what I'm there for. And I answer my phone when people are struggling and call me or text me because I can't say, oh, I'm doing this, that, and the other, trying to help people, and then go hide and just come out on stage. I love conversation with people, like not for any other reason other than I want to get to know people. Period. I want to build relationships with people, and outside of not even necessarily that are based on music, but relationships that are based on healing and common understanding of human suffering, and also the triumph that exists in some stories of suffering. I think it's very important to develop a fan base and a friend base that understands you. And I consider people that come to my shows my friends. I go stay at their houses. I treat them just like I would talk to my best friend in high school. There's no. I try not to attach any ego
Yeah.
to it whatsoever. And I'm just grateful for it every day. I'm super grateful that I get to play. I mean, I've got to play some of the coolest rooms in my opinion, in the United States this year, and it's just. I sometimes I look up and like, how did this happen? And so I'm just like so grateful, and I hope one of these days, this year or next year, that I do get to go do some tour support thing. And I get that there's these young up and comers that these labels are signed, and these booking agents, they want to get them in front of people to build the young guys, the new up and comers fan base, because at the end of the day, music is a business. So I hope that I can go out and do some. Just a few support runs, man. It'd be really cool. Right now here I'm grinding. I've got Meredith Crawford with me for the next, or she's been out with me for this whole run. I met her at Hotel Turkey Songwriter Festival.
Mm-hmm.
She's got some of the just most killer songs you ever heard in your life, and to hear her do those things with just her guitar in the last couple of weeks has been like a truly special deal. It's almost challenges, when you hear like a songwriter that's just extremely
Right.
inspiring. It inspires you to also spend that amount of time crafting a message, and so it's great. I'm great to have her out here with me, and we're looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
I imagine those relationships you're talking about, meeting people in person. I'm sure that helps you just as much as it does you're talking about building those
It,
relationships. I'm sure that not to make it a selfish thing, but I'm sure it goes both ways.
It's great. You know what I got to do last week? And I'm not saying this from a bragging standpoint or anything of that, but I feel like it's a story that needs to be told. I didn't take any pictures or anything. Somebody told me I should take pictures of this whole deal, but I didn't. I was up in Yorkville, Illinois, and I got invited to go speak at the drug court. So I got to walk in court, a county courthouse, and go back to the judge's chamber and sit at a round table with the judge, the state prosecutor, the public defender's office, the deputy sheriff, and their entire drug court team, and have a 20-minute conversation about what their rehabilitation model looks like from in the county that I was in. And then it was a great, just informed conversation on both sides. There was just a ton of great dialogue. And then I got to go out to my car, grab a guitar, walk into a courtroom, not go through the scanner, just get waved through. And walk into a court. I played a pound of Rust, and I talked to all the drug court guys that were in there. Some of them were on Zoom, some of them were in person. This was normal court. The judge is like, "Hey guys, I know today's your court day. We're going to do something a little bit different." So, like that stuff is the reason I do this. I mean, for opportunities like that to share and connect with folks that are in the same predicament that I was once in. That stuff is so cool, man. I mean, that's one of the coolest things I get to do is I sometimes get asked to talk at like halfway houses or rehabs or go give my testimony to a church or things like that. And I think that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to tell people about our triumphs so the people that are suffering know that, hey man, all that stuff you went through, that's the same stuff I'm going through. You actually made it out of it, and to try to help people get through that, or at least give them the ability to have some hope and knowing that it is possible. Because the truth is that us drug addicts, man, we got a really low percentage rate of success. You know what I mean? And so I take every single day extremely serious, and I'm super grateful for every day that I don't go back to the life I used to live.
Well, I'm grateful you came on here to tell your message for sure.
Well, thank you guys for inviting me on.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Talbo, you got?
Yeah, so that actually feeds in, I think, pretty well. I rarely transition well, so I'm excited about this one. Obviously, you now have had the opportunity to mentor a lot of folks. So whether it was while you're incarcerated or going the story you just told about getting to go to court, who are some of the folks that you look up to, or folks that have been mentors to help you along the way?
Well, they probably wouldn't be anybody you guys would know. There's not like any big names, but there's a guy that I was in prison with named Gordon Lederer, and I lived next to him for several years. And that guy had just had a tremendous amount of faith, and he was in there doing 24 years for a murder that he got away with, and he ended up getting saved and like going to the police station and say, "Hey, man, you remember 5 years ago?" And like admitted to the thing. And the amount of surrender that guy had, and we still talk, man. But I get my inspiration from just common people, man. I mean, other guys that I met in prison, guys that I've met through NA and AA. Now, I'm not like an active. I don't go to 50 meetings a month and everything, So I'm not. I can't say that I'm like an active member or sponsor people. What I like to do is become friends with people. I feel like in the recovery community, for me, whenever they talk about sponsors, like there's a certain hierarchy that exists, and I want everybody. I want to connect on this level playing field, not to take anything away from anybody. So right. I don't have any names that you would know.
That's right.
It's people that I've met. But you know who my biggest mentor is? His name's Jesus Christ, and he's available 24/7. You know what I mean?
There you go. Anybody in the music side of it that has been a mentor to you in terms of, it's very different being part of a band and then being the band, in terms of running the business.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of people that have helped get me. Like, it was very difficult for me to get my foot in the door of Texas, so Courtney Patton helped tremendously with that, with playing her and Jason Eady at the Sunday Supper Club down in Fort Worth, and opening for Courtney at the Redbird, and then going back 6 months later and almost selling it out, with solo. And Ryan Colwell is the kind of the guy that, man, it's a long story, so Well, I found out about Ryan Colwell in prison. I sent my daughter an email saying, "Who is this and who produced this album?" Organically, after I got out of prison, a buddy asked me to come do sound and open for Ryan and Jamie at a house concert. I had just started an Instagram. Ryan Colwell was the first person to like it. I started playing a song at the sound check. He's like, "I've heard that song before. Whose is that?" I was like, "It's mine. You were the first person to like it. The first thing I put on Instagram." So we get to talking.
That's
And I said,
cool.
"Where are you from?" And he says, "I don't tell him I discovered him in prison." I said, "Where are you from?" He says, "You'll never, you're not going to know this place. I'm from this little town up in Perryton, Texas, in the Panhandle." I'm like, "Well, that's crazy because I spent a lot of time in Perryton. That's where my grandpa had those feedlots, so I spent a lot of time in the summers up there. My grandpa had feedlots." Fast forward, Ryan took some recordings, some iPhone video of my show that night, sent it to Nielsen Hubbard, reached out to Nielsen, he reached out to me, and we ended up making an album together. Now, this was my vision in prison, but I never pursued it. I let everything happen and unfold 100% organically. And then I find myself out in Tennessee making an album with Ryan Colwell and Nielsen Hubbard. I made, my last two. So both of those guys, I have such a great appreciation for their body of work and for them being able to serve a song up in the studio without all the sparkle and glitter. You know what I mean? Just to
Sure.
serve the song. And there's just countless other people. Me and Ben Danaher, y'all know Ben?
Oh,
Ben
I know
Danaher and
who he is.
Ben Danaher and I met him at Mile Zero last year, and we're doing a little co-bill thing in Texas in December that's going to be great because Ben's got some pretty deep, poignant songs.
Yep.
It's been great in that community to be accepted, for what I am. I don't write. I don't do a lot of co-writes with rooms full of people because it's just not my method. Nothing wrong with anybody that does that, but you were talking about methods, and I forgot to mention that. So those people are inspiring to me. They really are. I see so many people in the music, like whether it's venue, like Hotel Turkey. I don't know if you ever heard of that down in Texas. That place is magical. It's so inspirational. Every time I go there, I get a song that I fall in love with. So the answer to your question the short answer is there's just a ton of influence. There's a ton of influence and inspiration around me. But hey, I'm hoping somebody one of these days says, "Hey, man, you want to go out with me for 3 or 4 months?" That would be awesome. That's what I'm trying to work towards. That's why I'm just showing up at all these cool venues and playing and hoping that I can go on some support runs with someone until I can fill these rooms up, these 200-300 seat rooms up.
Yeah.
Well, that takes me to my last question. So, if you could pick maybe one person to cut one of your songs, you can choose anybody. If they're here or not, doesn't matter. But you could have one person cut one of your songs, or some people don't like to have their songs cut, I guess.
It's tough.
I guess I probably am in the latter category there. I cover a lot of other people's music. I love the older Isabel stuff and like who I'm listening to today would be like Evan Bartles. If you know who he is, that dude writes some
Yep.
really deep, cool stuff. I'm listening to Anna Tivell, Jeffrey Martin, but I don't know that like as far as like writing songs, like my songs are very, very personal and almost somewhat confessional, and I don't know that anybody would want to cover any of them. I mentioned some of the people that I have a great deal of respect for, and I love their writing, but I'm not writing for someone else to record one of my
Sure.
songs. If they wanted to, cool, man, you got the keys to it. You know what I'm saying? But because
Yep.
there's some people that are writing for that's like the end goal, and
Their
for
main
what I do,
things, right?
that's not my end goal. I have a great deal of respect for these people that can write songs that fit, a lot of other people's personalities and demographic. But I'm not there yet. Not to say that I won't one day, but right now I'm still trying to tell a story, that would be the simple answer to that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All your soul.
If you don't want to answer this question, just say so. But
I
are
answer
there
all
some folks
questions,
that?
man.
Well,
You can't ask me a question that I won't answer. Let's put it that way.
well, I didn't know if you want to name names. So if you
Okay.
are there artists that you like that you really would be pushing for to let you go out with them?
Sure. You want me to give you a list?
That'd be great.
Well, let's start with John. Let's start with John Moreland. Let's start with John Moreland and BJ Barham. I would absolutely 100% love to go out of them. Jeffrey Martin, Anna Tivell, Benjamin Todd. I love Benjamin Todd has kind of a similar story. So John Moreland is I'm a huge fan of both John and BJ. So like if I got the phone call and they said, "Hey man, it'd be cool. Do you want to come do this run with us?" Like I would be a kid in a candy store.
It's a perfect pairing.
Because I've looked up to those guys so much, and I do like. But I mean, we can't discount. I would love to play some shows with Chris Knight as well. I mean, I'm a huge Chris Knight fan. So those would be like the top ones. So I'm not. I don't want to go play giant stadiums with folks that are playing stadiums.
No,
you know what I mean.
I was hoping you would say American Aquarium. Honestly, just me listening to your music. Not that you guys are you're a little bit similar, but there's something there that made me think like that would be the perfect pairing. Honestly,
it would be a very honest pairing, right? Because BJ's lyrics are very honest and introspective. So I just
that crowd will be expecting that.
Yeah. So hopefully those days come. If they don't, there's nothing I can do about it. It's difficult to. There's a lot of songwriters in the world, right? And
right.
People at that level can get whatever they want, And I have a great deal of respect, like American Aquarium and John Moreland have been having Justin Bloss do a lot of their stuff, and Justin Bloss is a great songwriter out of Tulsa. So, I know that it's just cool for me to see when people make it to that level that they believe in other people and they pick them up a little bit and kind of show them off. Same thing I'm doing with Meredith. I'm not some big time guy, but I knew that if she could get into some of these quiet rooms in the eastern United States, that these people would see her for what she is, and she can come out here and like share her story without me. And I love taking people that I believe in out and putting them in a car with me and driving around and playing the songs. Justin Clyde Williams is playing with us. Y'all ever heard of him?
No,
I have not.
Carolina guy.
We need him.
One most underrated guy in the United States of America. He's got a new album coming out, and he's just a great friend of mine. Man, I just like lifting other people up, man, around me, and learning their story, and just hanging out and existing with people on just an equal plane of, hey, let's go let's go play some music for some folks. Let's make them feel something. Whether you want to make them feel something like a mosh pit, because I can do that too. I played a Slayer song in the listening room last week. I played Dead Skin Mask at a listening room.
That's fantastic.
On a whim, because that's the world that I used to go. That's the world that I used to kind of live in. So,
all right.
We love the places I get to play right now, and hopefully the world broadens. I'll go to Europe in just a couple weeks with Zach Air. I'm going to do 10 shows in 15 days just over in the Netherlands, and working with RWDY for next year for like a 4-week spring of 2025 tour over there. Somehow, about last month, I made number 13 on the Euro Americana charts over there. So,
hey, there you go.
I don't even know what that means, but somebody sent me an email telling me congratulations. So, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, we'll take it.
That means
I'll
somebody's.
take it.
That means somebody's they're listening. So that's.
Yeah, you guys got Tony Loeb coming on tonight?
Yes, sir.
Tony's great. Met him down. He came down just he wasn't playing in Key West, but he came to Mile Zero. It's great to watch him just start like hitting all these cool places. His band is just well oiled now, and they're out there doing the thing. Man, I wish so much success for those guys. I don't know Tony well. Met him. I feel like if you listen to his music, you do know him. Sometimes there's a couple songs I'll play. A lady told me one time, "I've never met you, but I feel like I've known you my whole life after a show," and that's kind of how I feel about Tony's honest working man, some Midwest songwriting. It's really cool.
Yeah.
We'll pass that along.
Are y'all in Kentucky?
I'm in West Tennessee. He's in he's in DFW.
I'm in Texas.
Yeah.
Where are you at in DFW?
Yeah, north of about an hour from Oklahoma.
Oh, where at?
So north of Dallas.
Where at? Denton?
Frisco.
Frisco, okay. I did 3 months in Denton County Jail once.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go.
And
Well,
then you're in Tennessee. Hey man, if you see any listening rooms out there, I've never true story fun fact, and we'll end with this. I know I'm over time here.
no.
I've never played music in the state of Tennessee that wasn't in a studio. I can't get a human being in the state of Tennessee that has a quiet room to return an email or a phone call. So if you guys got any suggestions out that way, and again, got to be a quiet room. If it's not a listening room or someplace where people are going to be quiet, I'd rather go home and work on somebody's air conditioner. If I'm just being honest, you know what I mean?
Fair enough.
I understand. You're just at
But yeah,
that point. All right.
thank y'all very much for having me on. I'm
We
super
got
grateful.
we got one more tough, extremely tough question, JD.
Okay, go ahead.
What this is a staple of the show. It started off as a joke, but now if I don't ask, I'm required to.
Okay.
JD, what is your favorite Little Debbie cake?
Probably the zebra cakes. Well, it's going to be a tie between the Swiss cake rolls and the zebra cakes. 100%.
You're making a lot of friends already. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to stay away from the sweets a little bit. I got mildly addicted to the caramel filled Reese's peanut butter cups when I was out in January with Justin Clyde Williams. I actually ate 2 packs of them and they were so rich I threw up.
That's fantastic.
Well, JD, anybody that's watching this thing, make sure you go follow JD on all of his socials. Interact with everything that he's post. If you dig what he's doing, share it to some other folks that you think you may dig it too. Because that's the way the world works for all these guys. One person at a time, one connection at a time. So help them out and share them to some friends that'll like them.
All right, and I have one question for you guys.
Uh-oh.
If you guys have listened to some of my songs, what was your favorite song of mine that you've heard that told you a story that made you feel something the deepest?
The first one that became on my radar, like I said, because of BJ, was Percocets and postcards. Pawn shops. Yeah.
Hey, there's the next one though. Percocets and postcards. That could be like you could change the first one, first title of that, and like that could be like a song about prison mail, right?
I was combining one of your songs and an Adam Hood song, so sorry.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
And then Pound of Rust was the other one that hit me. So
okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of partial to Chasing Clouds.
Okay, real quick, that song was an afterthought in the studio. I remember that I wrote that song. It was not in my demo bank that we were working with, and I played it the fourth day in the studio. The night before, I played it in my Airbnb, and the next morning I got to the studio. I said, "Hey, I haven't played this song in a while. This is one you guys want to hear?" And I played it, and they said, "Let's cut this one right now." I'm like, "Cool." And it turned out to be one of my favorite songs on there. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
I enjoyed them all, but that one stuck out a little bit for me.
And the one that you mentioned earlier, the End of a Rope, like that's a pretty tough song.
Yeah,
sometimes people gasp at the end of that. In listening rooms, you can hear people gasp in some songs, and like at the very end of that, sometimes people will be like, like just natural instinct to just gasp because they didn't see that element of what was going to happen in that story come.
Yeah, my brain got in the way on that one. I'm usually super slow to figure stuff out, but I've figured that one out pretty quick. I kept looking back at the title. I'm like, I think I know how this is going to end.
Okay, cool. Well, you're more intelligent than most then.
Yeah, it was great too. I enjoyed that one.
Right on, man.
Plus, I'm a big Chris Knight fan, so any song with rope in it is good for me too.
Yeah, I've got a few. I have one I never released called "Staring at the News" from when I was in like a super suicidal state that I wrote. Maybe I'll release that one of these days.
Well, JD, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, if there's anything else that comes about or whatever you need any fellows to push or help promote, I mean, we're just some music nerds online, but we'll push whatever we can, however we can help. So
I appreciate you guys very much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Yes, sir.
Likewise.
All right, see you.